And welcome. I'm super excited because today we have with us Beth Mylott. We're going to, did I say that right? Mylott, is that it? Okay,
That is
perfect. I should
correct.
have asked you that ahead of time, but I'm excited. We're talking about games and hands-on learning for fun in your homeschool. We're talking about how to inspire learning, change up your routine, do some cool things. We're going to talk about all the benefits. We're going to talk about some drawbacks of some of this stuff too, because there are some, and we got to be careful with what we're doing. And Beth is all over that. That's what I love about her. And you know what? If there was ever a fun teacher that I'd want my kids around for sure, it would be Beth, because she's super organized. She has so many great ideas, and she is really inspiring the kids that she works with. So I'm excited about this because it's something that our kids are kind of looking at, they kind of want, and then we're like, I don't know, and what's that? And as parents, we're always thinking about, we know hands-on activities are like, yeah, that's more effective for learning and more inspirational. But on the other hand, if you're like me, I don't like messy things. I don't want to set it up. I'm not a Pinterest mom. I said this in our newsletter. I don't want to the science experiments, they're overwhelming sometimes. Like, I don't want to get all the things together and then have to clean it up. Beth takes care of that for you, by the way. But I know that it's great learning. And so that's something, how to make it easier for us and how to really make it part of our routine, in our homeschool routine, can actually help us raise love of learning and get us into having fun with it. I know, shocking, but that's what we do when we are talking about creating a culture that supports high love of learning. I'm always talking about board games and fun things. We're going to talk about all the things that Beth has all lined up for us, but I just know this is part of a very rich culture in learning that is outside of textbooks, outside of just watching a class or watching videos and then doing something in a book, or a textbook or workbook or something like that. So this is what our younger kids crave, is hands and things like, and building and things like that. So Beth's super amazing about that. I can't wait for you to hear from her today. So thank you so much, Beth, for joining us today. I'm super excited that we met because we have one of your students, Moms, is also one of our inspiring lifelong learning academy members, and she's super amazing and I trust her so much, and I knew if she speaks highly of Beth, she must be pretty good, and she is. So thanks so much for joining us today. I am really excited about this topic, and I want to hear a little bit about how you even got excited about this in the first place. I know you're a math lady, and that's one thing that is great for all of our kids to be excited about. So I want to hear about how you got into this and why you're so passionate about games and hands-on learning.
So I am a math teacher, and honestly, math was not always my favorite topic. So when I was maybe third grade or fourth grade, my parents sat me down because I wasn't doing well in like the multiplication tables. And instead of getting me in trouble or being upset with me, they actually had found a game, an educational game for me to work on. I was Jumpstart, and I spent hours on that game. And I ended up bringing up my grades, and I did great that year. And ever since then, I've just been kind of inspired by what video gaming can do for your education and how you can learn so much from just interacting with a virtual world.
I love that. I love that. And you are not only dealing with virtual stuff too, I know, because in
Yes.
your camps this summer, you had a lot of activities like boxes that you were sending the kids. What about that hands on type style have you found is super helpful for kids?
So I feel that being able to touch the materials with your hands versus just reading about in the book just makes it much more concrete, especially for younger students, but surprisingly also for the older students, because they end up getting in this like loop of only reading about what they're learning about and not really picturing how it applies to their life. So when they get this box of materials, they get to actually play with the science that they're discussing. So it just feels more real for them.
Absolutely. And you're right. It's everybody loves hands-on type stuff, right? It's all fun. We loved, well, maybe some of us didn't love labs in in school, but at least it was something we were doing. It wasn't something that we were, abstractly learning about. So, yeah, I totally love that. Very, very true for sure. And so, we're talking about some of the benefits already, but what are some of the other benefits you see from getting these hands-on activities and game type activities in kids' lives?
I see a lot more fun and education with the entire family. So the box arrives, the whole family is involved, kind of not like in a stressful way. It's more like excitement about what is the new materials each week. I had a lot of parents who came in and actually joined in on the interactive labs because it was fun. And I mean, we had music playing at one point, and people were just like kind of more of a community feeling because we're taking something that is in our world and kind of sharing it with others.
Absolutely. That's one of the best things I love about when I'm supporting, and telling my clients about games and what kind of board games or card games or whatever the case we can play. It helps bring the family together for sure. And that is super important for creating a learning culture, creating a love of learning culture, a high love of learning culture. And it is so important also for us to make those family connections too. And that's always one of the things I talk about as one of the best benefits of homeschooling is that the family connections and relationships that we can have that help support that high level of learning culture. So I love that absolutely. And so what are some of the other benefits that you see as far as the kids being curious and wanting more? Do you see that often?
So I find this, especially with the games, if I'm able to attach a lesson to one of their favorite video games, like Minecraft, which many students love, I find that they're so excited for the next lesson each week. So, for example, in my classes during the school year right now, we are building in a dinosaur world. So, right now, their goal is basically just to survive amongst dinosaurs. So, we had one student run out of the trees, running away from a T Rex when we first started the server. And like, I found the biggest dinosaur, I think. And then we looked it up, like, oh yeah, that is the biggest dinosaur around right now. And then I spawned in a round of Velociraptor, and we all died instantaneously, and we're all laughing about how we all died to the Velociraptor. And then another student chimes in, well, it's the fastest dinosaur. Of course we died to that one. And then we looked it up, and it was kind of just like, it ends up being a research study of dinosaurs while they're playing this game together. And they get excited about being there as well, which I feel combines what we both want, and especially in homeschooling, is finding a way to keep them excited every day when they go to their lessons.
Absolutely. I love that because it is something like a jumping off point. It's like a little starter. When in teaching in the classroom, we used to call it an intro lesson,
Yeah,
right? So an into lesson, sorry. So an into lesson. So we would do something that was a little tiny snippet like a teaser, and it would take us into the interest, the theme or the topic in a little bit more interest. So I love that you're right, it does do that. And no matter what you're playing, you can always be in that. Well, I wonder why, that if you're playing Monopoly, let's talk about compound interest. Let's talk
yeah,
about, let's talk about how that stuff works, rent
yeah,
works. Let's talk about how all these things, right? There's so many lessons involved in a lot of those games. They don't have to be specifically
yes.
designed for learning, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And we just add some component, or we discuss something specifically like in Monopoly, and it becomes a lesson. And we're working with their interest in mind all the time, which I think really adds to the lesson as well.
Yeah, it also helps them reframe that like, "Oh, this is boring. Learning's boring. I don't
Yeah,
like that." Especially when if they're coming out of school, they've had bad experience, whatever the case, you've been box checking a lot, you've got that low level of learning. This helps. "Oh, wait. I don't what? This is learning? What are you talking about?" And you might have to tell them, right? Do you ever tell the kids, "What we just learned something." Did you
yeah.
ever
Like, I'm like, you just learned that about dinosaurs. They're like, oh, yeah,
right?
I kind of like dinosaurs. That's interesting. Or, yeah, when that student yelled at that fact, you're like, oh, I didn't know that. And they're like, wait, did I? did I just learn something and have fun while doing it? Oh my gosh. And they get pretty psyched about it. Yeah.
Mind blown, right? Mind blown. I love that. Exactly. So, and so there's great benefits to using some of this in your homeschool journey for sure. So, what are but there are some drawbacks. There are some things that we got to watch out for, right?
Yes.
And I know one of those things a lot of parents, especially homeschool parents, have, a tendency to hold back on the screen time. And when I talk about screen time, I talk about it in three different categories, like productive screen time, unproductive screen time, and family time, right? So,
Yes.
and or family connection time. So there's different levels of screen time, and we have to decide as an individual parent how much of those different things we want. So,
Yes.
but there are other things to think about. What are some of those things that you've come across?
So one thing has come up recently with Roblox was safety. So their servers, they did not vet the people who were joining those servers. And what I do with my business, we actually create safe servers that only people in my Game and Learn club can join, so that basically it becomes a safe zone where students can communicate with people who we know are other students, who we know are under 18, and are safe people to be able to be around. Because when you're in a server, even on Minecraft, the public servers have lots of different types of people that we don't know. So having that stability and knowing that for sure is definitely something you should look out for.
Absolutely. So knowing who's on the platforms and how the kids interact with them makes sense. I actually know very little about Roblox and how that all works. I don't have any concept for it at all,
Yeah.
other than the fact that what's come up in the media recently, and we're doing this podcast in at the end of August in 2025. So if you're listening to this later, then things might have changed at that point, but suffice to say that there are platforms where there are in places where kids can interact with other kids or even adults don't that they pose as kids or whatever the case, or just information that perhaps you don't have any control over. So doing something and doing your research on that, and then also as always, being monitoring what's happening very, very closely. And that's what I love about what Beth's doing, is that we're not just trusting somebody in particular, we're also doing she has parents joining them and really digging in deep with what they're doing. So I love that about what you're doing. And so, what other kind of drawbacks do you see?
So what I see recently in gaming, which is not a trend I like, is the idea that you can buy the next set of armor, or you can purchase the upgrade. And usually that upgrade or that armor would require some problem solving, some sort of math to try to gather the materials to gain that item. And those, I think, are beneficial parts of playing a video game. And I feel that that idea of a pay to win is not really beneficial for kids, especially for our wallets too. You have your kid sit down to a game you thought you purchased, and they've spent $30 in an hour. So looking out for games that have this in mind, where there's a store up front, where they ask for real money instead of the in-game money. It's something you definitely should look out for as well.
Gosh, this is such a great, great topic. I love that we're talking about this because it's something I don't know a lot about. We don't game in our house. And so this is very important. So you're saying that it used to be that they would have to learn something, they'd have to problem solve, they'd have to do something different in order to some
Yes.
other skill or whatever the case to be able to move up in the levels, but now it's more of they're trending toward profits instead of doing
Yeah,
that.
exactly. And there's still lots of games that don't do that, but some of the games that do that are like Fortnite and Roblox, especially, that I see. And it makes it hard to make a lesson out of it, because they're just buying the next thing they need instead of kind of working for it, or some teaching some sort of life lesson about actually working for the things you get instead of having it handed to you.
Gosh, this is such a great, great, great lesson right there for us, especially as parents. So I love that. So let's look for things that we can work on problem solving versus the other ones for sure. So, is there any other drawbacks that you can think of?
The only thing I can think of would be, well, obviously, you need to have a conversation with someone else about it to maybe really have the lesson sink in. I don't like games that isolate students. I like games that create social situations where they're problem solving together. And that's one reason I like game servers, because I think it's so important that a lot of the game time happens. If it's not socializing with your family, it's learning to problem solve with your peers, which for many students can be a really tough skill to learn. So having that skill learned online can result in a little bit more separation from it. So you can walk away from the game and then maybe come back when you calm down. So kind of building up to more social skills in the real world by playing video games.
That's super interesting, and I love that team aspect of it, and the idea that because homeschoolers, sometimes we don't always have a community available to us or haven't really developed that yet. So I love the idea that they can work together, and then creating some sort of connection, and those problem solving skills and the critical thinking skills, but also relational skills as well, which is great and something that we don't think of when we think of playing games. And I love that
Yeah.
you made the distinction there, that there are some games that are completely isolating.
Mhm.
And that's one thing, that's what I call unproductive screen time,
Yes.
is anything that takes the child, or even us as adults,
Yeah.
right? But anything that takes us away from the family. So
Exactly.
doing
Yeah.
things together where we're communicating and having good social skills, that's important. So I that's a beautiful connection. Love that. And so when we think about doing these things, and this is hands-on stuff too. I mean, we're also talking about hands-on learning. There's a lot of different things out there. And we've mentioned a few video games, we've mentioned a few learning things. What kinds of things would you recommend for parents to look into? What are some activity ideas as far as hands-on learning? What are
Um,
some things that parents can do right now?
my favorite way to make something hands-on for an activity is you could take any quiz, any bit of information, turn it into an escape room. Kids love escape rooms. Like a set of instructions, we need to figure out how to get out of this room, and one of the questions could be something that they were supposed to learn for math this week. And another question could be something that's more of a literacy question, and they have to run around the room and find these clues, and that results in lots of movement, but they're also learning at the same time.
That's a beautiful, fun activity. Yay! I love that one. Oh man, that's one of the things that we use in learning another language
Oh,
in
cool.
classes, is we use it's called TPR, total
Yeah,
personal response, right? So we have that movement associated with something. So when we're moving, we're actually engaging our whole body, our whole brains, and we're associating different activities with different things. So you can go wild with that stuff. But
yeah,
I love the escape room. Kids love
yeah.
that for sure. That's awesome. What else?
So for me, we've been doing a lot of games where we draw on the whiteboard together. So drawing and creating exactly what you're talking about while you're reading about it. So maybe taking a break every 30 minutes through reading time and be like, draw me what you found, model what you found, or just any type of art material you have in your room. Just have it ready to go. Just show me what you learned today in a way that is fun and engaging for your hands, basically.
I did this exact same thing when I was teaching in high school. I was teaching at this one high school that was in a very middle class, but solidly middle class, kind of upper middle class. And but the culture of it was a very higher end, like I don't even know how to say it, but there was a culture that was like this, this ritzy culture, but that's not who was there, which made for a
Yeah,
very weird social experience. But
yeah,
the kids, we were reading this book called Cry the Beloved Country. Oh my gosh, gorgeous book, gorgeous novel about the apartheid and like in South Africa and like shanty towns and things. And I got the sense that these students were not understanding, they were ninth graders, were not getting the idea of what a shanty town was.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, we're gonna stop what we're doing. And I said, take out a piece of paper. I want you to draw a shanty town. And they drew these perfect little houses with roofs, with curtains in the windows
Oh,
and doors. And I was like, that's what I thought.
yeah.
And I was like, so we had to look up and we had to see. I'm like, we're
Yeah.
thinking trash, people. Like that's what
Yeah.
we're thinking. What
It's
would
a
you make a
different thing.
house out of for of trash?
Yeah.
And how would that look? And they were like, oh,
It's like that is way different than they imagined. Yeah.
right. They wouldn't have window panes. They wouldn't have maybe even windows at all, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Yeah.
just so interesting. And I love that connection when we can say, I wonder if this is something that this seems like we need to revisit a little bit. Or
Yeah.
if you have littles, just have fun with it. And just
Yeah.
Kenyon and I used to do that all the time. I'd say, oh, we read a book together. We read like, Witch in the Wardrobe or something. And then we just draw something from it. So whatever we felt like drawing, and he would hem and haw about it. But I draw like the lion or whatever the case. It doesn't even matter. It's something really cool, and your artist kids are gonna love it.
Yes. And there's a way to connect it to coding as well. One of my students, we've made video games from books that we have liked. So maybe if you have a student that might be literacy adverse but loves math and coding, I need to know what the setting is so we can set up this video game correctly. What are the main characters so I can make those first? Things like that all relate to coding and video games. So the student is I've had this student, literally a student that does not like reading a lot, going back and combing through the book to make sure they got all the details correct so that their video game is on point. So it all worked out pretty well for a lesson in coding, but also for literacy as well.
Well, not just for coding, but she's critically thinking about it. She's thinking about, how do I translate something from a story to a video game, and that problem solving there, and the idea of that, creating a story out of a video game is, I know that's something my husband has more experience in because he's the STEM teacher, he's the Lego robotics teacher, but I know that there are apps that you can just make a video game on, right? You can
Yeah.
code it right there.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many apps for younger kids called Scratch, which
Scratch is
is
great,
free,
yeah.
and then up to like Unity for about a middle schooler level, or then high schoolers they could use real coding languages to make video games for sure.
Absolutely. My son is super into the coding. He's taught himself Python code. It's pretty
Oh,
amazing.
great!
But
That's awesome.
but it's and he's like, it's that thinking that, oh, I could make something like that. Every time I have some kind of tech problem or something, he'll go, I'll make you a program on that.
I can do that.
I just love that mentality. That's a leadership mentality. That's an independence. That's saying, that's confidence. That's saying, I got this. I can do that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we want to instill in our kids. That's so beautiful. What about for something in terms of about I know that you do STEM stuff. So what about maker lab kind of things? Because I know this is huge right now, and it's
Yeah.
been huge for a little while. But so maker labs are, as per my understanding, are just making things from scratch. So wherever you, not from scratch the program, but scratch like
Oh yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
whatever you find, whatever you want to do. It's just like the crafting kind of falls under there, but then so does like STEM stuff. What do you think about developing some sort of maker lab? How would somebody do that in their house?
I would say you need probably a 3D printer is the core of a maker lab. Probably some sort of engraver. They actually have 3D printer engravers now.
Wow.
But basically, some sort of 3D printer, I'd say an engraver, maybe a paint set, and maybe some sort of like Play-Doh or sculpting kit. And I feel like you have a pretty solid maker lab for sure.
You could do darn near about anything on a 3D printer these days. It's pretty
Oh yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
we built.
It's
You can build so many things on it, and it would just be a lot of fun to have all those materials nearby. For sure.
it would, for sure, and they're actually more affordable than they used to be, so it's
Yes.
pretty amazing. Awesome. Oh my gosh, this is such a good conversation. I'm so happy about this. Thank you so much, Beth. Tell me, I know that you just launched a brand new program, and you have something that you're going to be sharing with us today that we can use for free, and I'm excited about that because it sounds super fun, and I know
Yeah.
that kids would love. So, can you share how we get in touch with you and how we get access to your programs?
So basically, my well, we technically haven't launched yet, but September 1st, I have about 16 video game servers that are going live with different educational games. And what I'm offering for our freebie is if you message me on my Instagram, hashtag love dinosaurs, I will send you the information for joining our dinosaur Minecraft server. And you won't be able to access it till September 1st, but it will be a full immersive experience, and you'll get 1 week free to kind of see what one of our educational servers look like.
I love that. So you're on Facebook is Beth Mylott, and then Instagram is game
Yes.
underscore and underscore learn, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. Awesome. So if you could just DM her hashtag love dinosaurs, she will get you access to that Minecraft server on dinosaurs. And I really, really appreciate you being here today. And oh, and your new program is an after school type program, right? It's
Yes.
like a
So,
club.
yes, before we've been running the summer camp for about 4 years now, and it's called Game and Learn Club. So it'll be more of like a membership so that you'll feel like you're part of a community of learners rather than being kind of like an isolated member online.
And I can tell you that from what I've heard about your summer camps, they're phenomenal. And the kids are so engaged that they're like glued to what's going on. They're interactive, they're helping you out, they're building stuff, and it's just so fun. So I really, really recommend you get in touch with Beth and definitely check out that dinosaur server. That sounds super cool.
It's going to be pretty awesome, in my opinion.
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much for joining us again, Beth. And I know that you're going to hear from her again in the future. So, really
Thank you.
appreciate being with us today. And we will talk to you again next week. Bye bye.
Sounds good. Bye. Have a nice day.